Today I would like to talk about good people, and I know what the Bible says. There's no such thing as good people. But when I say good people, you know what I mean. You know the Charlies that live down the street. Oh yeah, they're good people. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. I want to talk about some of the things that good people do. Now this is my opinion, but most of the time, if you know good people, they'll feed you when you're hungry. They'll be loyal. You can count on them. They will come and get you at 2 o'clock in the morning with a rope and pull you out of the ditch. They're people that won't stab you in the back. Most of the time, and this is my opinion only from what I've seen, most of the time good people will live in the country. They won't have very much money. They're real Protestants, and they'll come in all colors. So just a couple of little quickies. Proverbs says, a righteous man careth for his animals. Now, when it's 30 degrees in your backyard, it's also 30 degrees in that doghouse. So on nights that it's freezing, do you let your dog in the house, or do you let him stay out and shiver all night? Proverbs 11, a talebearer reveals secrets, excuse me, but he who is of a faithful spirit conceals a matter. Well, good people keep their mouth shut. I mean, it's a secret. They don't want anybody to know about it. If it's a secret, they don't want you telling about it. Proverbs 17, he who covers a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates friends. Well, I've seen that a lot. You know, people that tell things that they shouldn't be telling, and they lose the friendship of someone. When I was young in elementary school, I would hear quite often, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can't hurt me. Well, that's not true. Words can hurt you a whole lot. I mean, I've got some long tales of people in the church saying things they shouldn't hurt other people. Words can hurt you, especially when they're not true. When I was a child, and I would get out of line sometimes with what I was saying, my mother used to say, if you can't see anything nice, then don't say anything at all. So that's probably still pretty good advice right now. Okay, let's start out with good people keep their word. You know, when I was raised, you could go to the right or the left, you could change your mind, but once you gave someone your word, that was it. It was better than a written contract. You had to stick to it. And the story I'm about to tell you is a true story. It really happened. This is not hearsay. I actually saw it take place. You have to remember that this was a long time ago. But this man was in the church worldwide, and he had a truck, used truck for sale that looked brand new. It had low mileage. It was just a few years old. And he was asking $900 for this truck. Now, when I say $900, you have to think in thousands, because when this took place, you could get a brand new Chevrolet pickup truck right off the showroom floor for $1,700. If you wanted a new Dodge or a new Ford, it was $2,000. So anyway, he puts an ad in the paper. Well, they didn't have ATM machines in those days. Sure enough, somebody comes on Sunday and wants to buy the truck. And he says, okay, I'll sell it to you, and they make a deal. But he would only take cash, because if the man wrecked the truck, he could stop payment on the check, and then he wouldn't have the money or the truck. So the man that won the truck said, I really want the truck. I'll bring you the money tomorrow. I'll go to the bank, get the money, and bring it to you. He said, okay. Well, as soon as he left, about an hour later, somebody else came up and wanted to buy the truck. And he said, I can't sell you the truck. I've already sold it to someone else. And the man said, well, it's sitting right there. He said, yeah, the man's going to bring me the money tomorrow. And he said, look, I have cash with me right now. I want to buy the truck. I'll give you cash. He said, I can't sell it. He said, I'll give you $100 more than what you're asking. He said, I can't sell it. He said, I'll give you $200 more than what you're asking. I have the cash. I want to buy the truck right now. And the Christian said, you could offer me all the money in the world. I still couldn't sell it. I've already given my word. And once I give my word, I have to do it. If he doesn't buy the truck Monday, I'll sell you the truck. So the guy walks off all huffy and puffy. Well, I did a little, see, $200 doesn't sound like very much to us. But I did a little math. You buy a truck now for $70,000. You keep it a year or two, you're going to sell it for $50,000. Somebody comes up and offers you 20% more. That's what that man did. You're selling your truck for $50,000. He offers you 20% more. Are you going to give up that $10,000 to keep your word? Or are you just going to take your money? Good people keep their word. You remember the story, and I have kind of a disadvantage when I'm speaking to a group like this because all of you have read your Bibles more than 10 times. I mean, more than 50 times at least. And you know where I'm going before I get there. So I'm not going to do a lot of reading, excuse me, but I will go through these stories, a couple of these stories. You remember the Hivites that lived in Gideon. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors. So they show up, you know, with the old clothes and the old sacks and the old sandals and the old shoes and the old moldy bread, and they convince them that they come from a very far country. And so Joshua, as you know, and the elders and the rulers made a covenant with them, gave them their word that they wouldn't kill them. And of course, 3 days later, they found out that they were their neighbors. But they didn't kill them because they'd already made a covenant with them. They'd already told them that they wasn't going to do it. So they made slaves out of them. From now on, you're going to provide, water and firewood for the Israelites, but they didn't kill them because they kept their word. And later on, the same thing happened with Rahab. She made an agreement with the spies, and I think there's a whole lot more to that story than what we're getting just out of the Bible. I think God was actually calling Rahab. It strikes me as not a coincidence that the two spies that went in there happened to end up at her house. And I noticed that when she was talking to them, she told them, she said that she was doing this because she realized that their God was God. Their God was God of heaven and earth. She realized that the gods that these other people had been worshiping were just sticks or something that they had carved out of stone. And she realized and saw who the true God was. So the spy said, okay, we're not going to kill you and your family, but you're going to have to keep your mouth shut. And they went back and they told Joshua, and he went along with it because they worked for him. They gave her their word. And if you will notice, a lot of people skip it and don't see it, but when the walls of Jericho came tumbling down, the wall that held up her house did not. One of the walls that surrounded the town was the wall of her house. And when it was over with, Joshua said, go into the house, and from there bring out the woman and all that she has. I think they had to go into the house. I think they had to go into a door. I don't think that wall of her house was gone, open. And of course, you know the story. She was eventually assimilated into the Israelites, and one of her descendants was David. One of her descendants was Jesus. So I think God was definitely working with that woman. It wasn't just an accident that the spies showed up there. Okay, let me go to 2 Kings 4. I start in 8, 2 Kings 4, 8. I'm not going to read all of this because you know the story. And it happened one day that Elijah went to Shushan, where there was a notable woman. She was well known in the community, and she persuaded him to eat some food. So it was, as often as he passed by, he would turn in there and eat some food. And she said to her husband, "Look now, I know that this is a holy man of God who passes by us regularly. Let us make a small upper room on the wall, and let us put a bed for him there, and a table, and a chair, and a lampstand, so it will be whenever he comes to us, he can turn in there." So she and her husband agreed. They made him a Motel 6. And it happened one day that he came in there and turned in there in the upper room. Then his servant, Gehazi, then he said to his servant, "Call the Shunammite woman." When she had come, he stood before him, and he said to him, "Say now to her, look, you have been concerned for us with all this care. What can I do for you? Do you want me to speak on your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army?" Now, this man had connections. I mean, how many people can go in and speak to the king or the commander of the army? And she answered, "I dwell among my people." She's saying, "I don't need a reward. I don't need to be compensated. I'm okay just the way that I am." So he said, so he's talking, "What then is to be done for her?" And his servant, Gehazi, answered, "Actually, she has no son, and her husband is old." Now, today that wouldn't be a problem. Back then it was a huge problem. They didn't have Social Security. If you didn't have a son to take care of you when you were old, a woman could actually starve to death. She most of the time couldn't make enough money to support herself. So he said, "Call her." When he had called her, she stood in the doorway. Then Elijah said, "About this time next year, you shall embrace a son." Well, she found that hard to believe. It kind of took her back. She said, "No, my Lord, man of God, do not lie to your maidservant." But the woman conceived and bore a son when the appointed time had come, of which Elijah had told her. And the child grew, probably 4 or 5 years old. I don't know, it doesn't say. He went out and he was going to, work with his dad or watch his dad work. And all of a sudden, his head starts hurting real, real bad. And his father told one of the hired hands, he said, "Take this child home and give him to his mother," which he did. And the child sat on his mother's lap until noon, and then the child died. Well, of course, the mother, she picks up the child, and she carries this child. This is how I know it's a small child. She carries this small child up the stairs, and she lays this child on his bed, on Elisha's bed. And then she goes to see Elisha, and he finds out what's going on. And he tells his hired servant, "Take my staff, go as fast as you can. When you get to the house, lay my staff on the child's face." Same thing as an anointed cloth. Same principle. But of course, when he got there, the child was still dead. Because he lays on the child and tries to put heat on the child and prays and lays heat, and the child comes back to life. So he tells his servant, and he called Gehazi and said, "Call this Shunammite woman." We don't even know what her name is. So he called her, and when she came into him, he said, "Pick up your son." So she went in, fell down at his feet, bowed to the ground. Then she picked up her son and went out. Now, a famine was taking place at that time. I'm going to go over to 2 Kings 8. Then Elijah spoke to the woman whose son he had restored to life, saying, Arise, go, you and your household. Stay wherever you can, for the Lord has called for a famine, and furthermore, it will come upon the land for 7 years. So the woman arose and did according to the saying of the man of God. And she went with her husband and dwelt in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came to pass at the end of 7 years that the woman returned from the land of the Philistines. And she went to make an appeal to the king for her house and for her land. Then the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God. Tell me, please, all the great things Elijah has done. So he's sitting there with the king, and they're talking about old times, and this lady walks in. She just so happens, you think this is a coincidence? It just so happens that she shows up to talk to the king on the same day that Gehazi's there. That Gehazi's there. Now it happened as he was telling her how he had restored to life the land. There the woman was whose son was restored to life, appealing to the king for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elijah restored to life. So when the king asked her if that was true, she said yes. So the king appointed a certain officer for her, saying, Restore all that she has, and all the proceeds of the field from the day that she left until the day she came back. So the king gave her her land back, and he gave her her house back. Now, think about what happened to this woman. This woman was given a son that she wouldn't have had. She had a son brought back to life that would not have been brought back to life. She was given a warning to get out of the area for 7 years. She was given back her land and her house when she came back. And all of that was done because she was hospitable. Good people are hospitable. 1 Timothy 3, hospitality is one of the requirements for being a bishop. Titus 1:8 says the same thing. 1 Peter 9 says, be hospitable to one another without grumbling. Every single thing that she did for those 2 men were an act of kindness. People are not as hospitable now as they were when I was a child. And we should be hospitable all the time. It didn't matter whether I was 10 years old, 15 years old. If I was at someone's house, whenever that person started eating lunch, their mother would say, Come on in, Buster. Nobody knew my name by then, but everybody knew me as Buster. No one knew my real name. Come on in, Buster. Sit down and eat with us. And it was just that way. People were so hospitable in those days. Now, people will call their kids in to eat and send the other kids on down the road. Okay, I want to read a paper. I don't know where I got this paper. It has a date on it, so I know it's 5 years old. It has Dave Haver's name on it. So I'm pretty sure I picked it up here, or he mailed it to me. But it is a man giving a commencement speech because his son is graduating from junior high school. I'm going to read it word for word. It's very short. Now, the commencement speaker will typically also wish you good luck and extend good wishes to you. I will not do that, and I'll tell you why. From time to time in the years to come, I hope you will be treated unfairly so that you will come to know the value of justice. I hope that you will suffer betrayal because that will teach you the importance of loyalty. Sorry to say, but I hope you will be lonely from time to time so that you don't take friends for granted. I wish you bad luck again from time to time so that you will be conscious of the role of chance in life and understand that your success is not completely deserved and that the failure of others is not completely deserved either. And when you lose, as you will from time to time, I hope every now and then your opponent will gloat over your failure. It is a way for you to understand the importance of sportsmanship. And I hope you will be ignored so you know the importance of listening to others. And I hope you will have just enough pain to learn compassion. Whether I wish these things or not, they're going to happen. And whether you benefit them or not depends upon your ability to see the message in your misfortune. I just happened to stumble across that paper a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, that is exactly what God's done with us. You know, from the very beginning, from the time he started working us, we had one problem, one trial right after another, and it's all so that we can learn how to be better people. I lost my place. I'm sorry. I didn't go to sleep until 3 o'clock this morning, so I'm quite all with it. Right now, sorry, I'm missing a page. I'm going to go ahead and conclude. And in this conclusion, what I'd like to do is talk to the old people in the audience. Now, I'm closer to 80 than I am to 70, so I'm old people. And I want you to know up front, I am not telling you what to do. I know better than that. What I'm getting ready to say is not a commandment. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm only repeating some words that I've read. And I think we will all be better off mentally and physically if we do this. We need to do something every day. When I was in the Air Force, they had a term, and it was tired. And they would say, Sergeant Miller, he's tired. Well, he wasn't tired physically. That word was used in the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Army. Everybody used that word, and it meant the same thing. He wasn't tired physically. If there's no war going on, you're just like a person on the outside. You work 8 hours a day. You know, you go to work, you work 8 hours a day, you're off. This man had a uniform on, but it wasn't ironed. He had shoes on, but they weren't shined. He didn't take any pride in his work. There was no pizzazz, there was no spark, there was no energy. He was only doing what he had to do. Usually these men that are tired have 17 or 18 years in, and they're only trying to get 2 more. They only have a few stripes. They know they're not going to get any more. They figure they're at a dead end. All they want to do is make their 20. If they can get 20 years in, they'll get a check for the rest of their lives. So they only do what they have to do. Galatians 6:9, and let us not grow weary in doing good. 2 Thessalonians, but as far as you, brethren, do not grow weary while doing good. We can't quit being good people just because we're tired. I don't mean tired physically. I mean, we can't just get, fed up with the whole mess. And it's easy to do when you look at the news, which, it's a pitiful, sad situation. I won't get off on that. You have to remember that we are the temple of God. And God expects us to take care of ourselves. All work and no play makes Bert dull. Watching TV all day long is not good for us. We need to do something every day. It might take 20 minutes, might take 2 hours, but we need to do something every day. And you're going to say, or you're thinking right now, he doesn't know how I feel. A lot of you have aches and pains. I do know how you feel. I've had broken bones, one time so bad that I was on crutches for a year. I had burns so bad that they thought they were going to have to amputate both of my legs from the knees down. You know, I've had stitches many, many, many times, and twice I had a skin graft in because there wasn't any skin to stitch. Both of my knees are shot. This shoulder's been replaced. This shoulder needs it right now. The inflammation wakes me up at night, and I'm pretty sure that my arthritis hurts just as bad as yours does. So I do know how you feel, but you still need to do something every day. Now, again, I'm not talking about people that are physically impaired. No, I'm not asking someone that's crippled to run. I'm not asking someone that has a broken arm to do push-ups. I'm talking about normal progression of old age, like most of us have in here. Still need to do something every day. 50 years ago, maybe 49, maybe 50, 51, I don't know. 50 years ago, Mr. Armstrong was given a speech. He's given a sermon, I'm sorry. He was giving a sermon at the Feast of Tabernacles right down the street. And I can't remember what the sermon was about, but I remember this one line. He said, old people do the exact same thing that young people do, just not as often. Now, he was talking about something really good. I'm just talking about everyday life. Yeah, we're old and we're slow. We can still get it done. I can't carry it across the room anymore, but I can put it on a dolly and roll it across the room. We can still do stuff even though we're old, and we need to do stuff every day. Well, I can't walk like I used to. Well, you might not be able to walk 2 miles like you used to, but you can walk around the house. Well, I can't garden anymore. I'm too old. No, you're not. Just get a little patch the size of the bed that you sleep in. Don't plant 30 tomato plants. Plant 3 tomato plants. Scale down. You get a small patch. You'll be surprised how much you can get out of it. Well, I can't build anymore. You can build a doghouse. Well, I can't paint anymore. Well, you can paint a birdhouse. I can't fish. Well, you might not be able to get in and out of a boat, but you can set the chair on the dock and sit in the chair and fish off the pier. You can get a bag of groceries and set it on a poor person's porch. You can send a card to someone. It doesn't have to be their birthday or their anniversary. You don't have to have an excuse to send one. You can call someone on the phone that you haven't talked to in 6 months and see how they're doing. You can give someone a ride to the doctor's office that can't drive or doesn't feel like driving. You can take your granddaughter's bicycle and paint it yellow or turquoise, something really nice that she would like. You can take your granddaughter or your grandson or your great-granddaughter or your great-grandson out and teach them gun safety. And after you do that, you can teach them how to shoot that gun and shoot it well. And a little heads up on that one. Only take one at a time. No matter how much the others complain, only take one at a time. And don't give them a shotgun. Start out with a .22. You know, make it comfortable for them. And if you honestly can't think of anything to do, we should do something every day. If we're not doing something for ourselves, you should be doing something for someone else. And if you're doing something for someone else, you're doing it for yourself also. But if you honestly can't think of anything to do, volunteer for something. God says, greater love has no one than this, to lay down his life for his friends. Your time is your life. If the lady goes back in there in that kitchen and starts working for 2 hours, she has given every single person in this room, she has given every single person in this room 2 hours of her life. God sees all that. When you go back home and the weather's perfect, feels really good, it's not hot or cold, and you've got that cup of coffee or a cup of tea and you're sitting on the porch and you start thinking about life, don't go back. Don't. Oh, I wish I'd have kept that pickup truck. I sure wish I had that now. I should have bought stock in Exxon Oil Company. I should never quit that job. Oh, I wished I'd would never have met that person. Don't do that. Don't go back. When you sit there and you're thinking about life, think about life in a future perspective. And remember, always remember, your best days are yet to come.